year, and every year everything changes just a little bit. So let's talk about things that are in and out for TPT this year of 2024. What I mean by this is things that are in are things that we should be doing, and things that are out are things that we should not be doing. This is not going to be an extensive list, but it is going to be a couple of things that can help you as you are going about this new year to make sure you're coming in and showing up right. I also apologize for any extra noise because my computer sounds like it is taking off to fly to the moon. Hopefully you can't hear it, but it's processing a recorded video, so that's what that is. But we don't have time to wait for it, so we're just gonna go for it anyway. All right, so these are in absolutely no particular order, but we're gonna talk through a few things that are in and a few things that are out. We'll kind of go back and forth on each one. So first of all, something that is out is constantly checking your dashboard. Now this one actually came from someone on Instagram. I asked y'all what was in and out for TPT this year, and this is what was said. Yes, checking the dashboard can be helpful because, you know, it's nice to see how much money you've made, but checking it excessively is not helpful. It's actually just another way to procrastinate. And so if you're going in and you're just constantly checking and refreshing, that's not helpful. Like maybe check once a day or once a week and just see how things are going, but don't go in there all of the time and constantly look, because that's not helpful. Like whether it's up or whether it's down, it's not something that you can like immediately fix, and so that's not something that's super helpful, especially if you're not making a lot of sales yet, and so you're not even looking at money, you're just looking at views. I have people ask me a lot like, oh, what do you do if your views are up or down? And I'm like, views only matter if you're making money. So if you're looking at views especially, just don't. That's it. So stop looking at your data all of the time. Instead, look at your data to make product-backed products. Nope, data-backed products. That's what I wanted to say, which is something that is in for TPT this year. So something that's in is those data-backed products. And what I mean by this is looking at your data and figuring out what products are going to do well based on your data. So we're not just randomly checking the dashboard constantly. Like, I'm okay, you know, check it a little bit. I check once or twice a day, just see where we are, because I'm curious, especially if I got those notifications. But don't constantly check it, but do check your data so that you can make actionable things like new products. So new products are data backed when you make a new product that is based off of something that's doing well. So looking through your best sellers or your top performing products and making products that go along with those products. This is a really good strategy for making sure that you're making the right products, because if you have some things that sell a lot better than others, then it would stand to reason that then it will make you more money if you make similar ones. Also, I always try to look at those big selling items and make sure that they have bundles, and if they don't have bundles, to make a bundle. That actually made me quite a bit of money, not last year but the year before. I had a particular thing that sold a lot during back to school, and it was really cheap. It was like $1, and so I made it into a bundle, and that has helped a lot with making more money, because now instead of people just buying the $1 product, they're buying like a whole thing, and so it makes a lot more money. So having those data-backed products are really helpful, because it always stinks when you make a new product and then like it doesn't sell. So we want to make products that are going to sell. One thing that is out for TPT is wasting time. So that could be from checking your dashboard, or that could be from checking on Instagram, or from just, you know, spending 8,000 years trying to decide on what clip art you want to use. Instead of wasting time, we are getting down to work. So when it comes to wasting time, making sure you're not wasting time, a couple things you can do. Make sure you never sit down without a plan. Make sure you have a plan for your products when you're making them. So I used to just like wing it, but now I actually sit down and think like, what should I include in this product? What should it look like? What kind of things do people need in this product? And having those questions answered before you start really makes a huge difference and makes it go so much faster. Having templates for your products, so you're not wasting time remaking the same cover design every single time, but instead you can just, you know, switch some photos and be on with your merry way, and not procrastinating. Like you don't need to procrastinate. Just sit down and do your work. Okay. Something that is in is using your whole listing page. Actually, this morning we were doing a live Zoom with a whole bunch of people like you. Some of you were in there, and somebody said, what is something you would redo if you could start back like and redo everything for TPT? And this is what I told her. I wanted my products to be better, and I wanted to use my whole listing page, because I used to not use all the thumbnails and not use the previews, and the video previews didn't exist when I started, but you know, all of those things make such a difference into whether someone buys or not. When someone gets to your listing page, like the page that actually has your product, where it has, you know, click here to buy, that is the page that you are trying to get them to purchase. So that page is really important because it tells them why they need to buy it, what's included, what we're going to use it for, why it's so special. And if you're not explaining your product well enough, then they're not going to buy it, even if it's amazing. So make sure you use your cover and your thumbnails and your preview, and video preview would be great, and use your description, and make sure you have all of those things. I'm now going back and adding a lot of those things to earlier products that didn't have them, or updating them, just because I know a lot more now than I used to, and it's been a very tedious process that I would not recommend to anybody. So highly recommend that you use that whole listing page instead of, you know, hanging out and not using it, because I know when you finish your product, you're like, I just want it up. But do it right. Do it right the first time. Even if this is not official advice, but unofficially, sometimes I will post my product with just a cover, or just cover and thumbnails, and then the next day I'll make a preview and I'll go back and add it in, like fix everything. But that might help if you're like, I just want to get it posted now, but you don't have time to do all the things. So just there's some little unofficial advice for you. Something that's out is looking at what everyone else is doing. I don't care what everyone else is doing, because I'm very busy doing my own thing. So stop looking on Instagram at people and seeing what they're doing. Stop looking at other people's shops. If you're doing it for research, like, that's okay. Like, you know, if you're inspired by someone on Instagram, or you enjoy watching their videos because you get, you know, helpful things out of it, that's one thing. But what I'm looking at is more like comparing your store to other people's stores, and not having all the data and just making assumptions. That's not useful. That's actually wasting your time, and it's not very helpful. So if you're looking at other people's shops, there should be a reason. And if you're looking for like cover ideas, somebody like those kind of things, look at someone who's outside of your niche and see what they're doing, instead of looking at people inside your niche, so that you're less likely to copy them, because we don't want to copy. We also don't want to be comparison. Okay. One thing that is, oh, I wrote in the wrong section. Okay, well then, sorry, it's another out. What is out is underpricing your resources. You worked hard on that resource, and it is worth money, because it's not just, oh, it's worth $3. It's that if a teacher it's how much is going to save the teacher time. And if it's going to save them, you know, if it's worth $3 to save them however much time, then it's worth it for your product. But do not underprice your resources. What I mean by that is, we're not making our prices intentionally lower than other people's just so we can get sales. Okay, we're not making it lower than it ought to be just because we, you know, want to be cheap, because you don't want to be the cheap person, first of all. Secondly, because it makes it harder for everybody else. You know, if I have a product and you have a similar product, but yours is cheaper, maybe people will go buy yours, or maybe they'll buy mine because mine's better, but then they're like, oh, well, that one's cheaper, so maybe I should buy that one. And so it's not great. Highly recommend you don't underprice your resources. Also, it's just underpricing yourself, and you don't make as much money as you should be making. So make sure that you're pricing your resources competitively, not underpricing just for the sake of trying to get more sales. And I will say that sometimes, you know, people like the things that are more expensive because they think that they're better. So there's that too. Don't underprice your resources. It's very frustrating, especially like I made a new product line a few years ago, and this is one time I do look at other people's things. I looked for a similar product to see kind of like how I should price mine. The ones that I saw, specifically one person in particular I can think of in my head, she had priced hers like way low, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't price anything that low. Like, why would you do that? And then it put me in a bad spot, because I try to keep my resources over $3 because I like to avoid that transaction fee. And she had posted them for like $250 or something, and they were worth way more than $250. They were not worth $250. And I was like, now I have to put my price lower to be competitive, because if mine's like $1 more than hers, like that's kind of ridiculous. But it was just super frustrating. Don't underprice your resources, make them worth what they're actually worth so that people can get them and you're helping the community at large and you're making more money, which we like. The next one that is also an out is having covers that don't have photos. You want to have a photo or a screenshot on your covers unless there is some particular reason not to, but it helps people to see a little preview of what's inside your product so that they're actually willing to purchase it. So make sure your cover has a photo or a screenshot on it. Also, make sure it's big so we can see it. We don't want 87 teeny tiny little photos because you can't see those. Like one big one or 2 to 3 big ones is better than having a million little ones. And if you're concerned about people like stealing your ideas, they can overlap. So sometimes I'll do like 2 or 3 and they overlap a little bit. Maybe the second half is cut off so you can't see the whole thing, and again, it's like a page, so it's not going to be the whole thing, but just doing things like that can help. But having the product on the cover makes a huge difference because then we can actually physically see what is going to be inside this product, and it's going to make me much more likely to want to purchase because I don't have to try to imagine something that I have no idea what it is. One thing that is in, that's not just for this year because it's always been in, but that is product lines. Product lines I've talked about ad nauseum because they are gangbusters, and specifically, especially if you're new. If you're new and you're looking to make money, I would suggest that you start with a product line. So a product line is just a group of products that go together. And why this is helpful when you're new is because if you're new, you don't have a ton of different products. And so you need to be able to have those products that people can purchase, and you want them to be able to purchase more than one. So if you have a product line that has multiple products that are similar, then people will probably want to purchase more than one if they go together. So it increases the likelihood that someone's going to purchase more than one product at a time. And this is super, super helpful all of the time, but especially if you're new because you need to get those sales in. And if you don't have a lot of products and they're all really different, that's a lot less likely that somebody is going to purchase more than one. So you want to increase the likelihood that they're going to purchase more than one and do that. Plus you can bundle them, and bundles are where it's at because you make way more money with bundles than with single products. So make sure you got that going too. And the last one that is out is relying solely on teachers pay teachers. This is I'm gonna call it a mistake. This is a mistake that a lot of people were making up until the last couple of years when algorithm changes happened and all sorts of things went down and people realized, oh, we need to not rely solely on TPT because TPT is not, you know, the end all be all, and everything is fragile and you don't control TPT, which means that, you know, things could happen. They could sell the company, which they did, which, I mean, so far seems like it's working out, but you know, it hasn't been that long, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it continues to go well. But having this mentality of like, oh, TPT's it. And I've heard people tell advice. They're like, you don't need marketing. You don't need this. You don't need that because you just need TPT and you need to work on SEO on TPT, which is important and it's really helpful, but it's not the end all be all because, you know, you don't control TPT at the end of the day and different things can happen, and we want to make sure that we are protected and that you're not losing your livelihood with drastic changes that happen that are outside of your control. So instead of relying solely on TPT, I'm gonna suggest that you work on building an audience off of TPT, specifically an email list, because your email list is something that you own and that you can then send people to whatever you need them to. So if you need to, you know, pivot and you need to sell on a different website for some reason, you can send them to that website. If you open up your own website, you can send them to your own website. If you want to create a course, you can send them to your course. If you want to create, you know, something else, you can send them to that, and you just have a lot more options with that email list. Plus, email lists will make you a lot more money because when you can send someone an email and be like, hey, here's some products you should buy for your lessons this week. It's a great place to have. Like I literally have gotten emails from people back where I was like, hey, buy this product. And they were like, thank you, my lesson planning is done for the week. And those are like my favorite emails to get because I know that, like, I sent you exactly what you were looking for. And so having an email list is a great way to get off of TPT and to still, like, I'm clearly, I am pro TPT. Okay, we're not against it, but you want to protect yourself. And I've felt like this since the beginning. I was like, I don't want to be solely relying on this. So I'm glad that hopefully some other people are figuring that out. Anyway, all of that to say, I hope you have the best time on TPT this year. I would love to hear about your goals for this year and what you're working on. So leave those things down below in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.